Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. Winners are not born. They're built. Winners are not chosen. They're forged. The only thing separating you from the life you want is the mindset you carry. And until you think like a winner, you'll keep living like a quitter. Winners don't operate like everybody else because they don't think like everybody else. That's the first thing you got to understand. You can't keep a regular mindset and expect extraordinary results. You can't think average and live exceptional. You can't carry a victim mentality and expect a victor's outcome. You know, when everybody else sees obstacles, winners see opportunities. When everybody else sees a dead end, winners see another route. When most people get hit with failure, they see finality. A winner sees feedback. A winner sees a new lesson to apply. A winner sees another brick in the foundation of greatness. Command. Shift your perspective or stay stuck where you are. The difference between winners and quitters is not talent. It's not luck. It's not even opportunity. It's the mindset. You give two people the same tools, the same environment, the same amount of time. One will quit and one will create history. Why? Because of how they thought about the challenge. One-liner. Your mindset is either your prison or your passport. I know most people talk themselves out of success before they even start. They convince themselves they're not good enough. They convince themselves the odds are too high. They convince themselves they'll fail before they ever try. A winner talks themselves into progress. A winner says, if I fail, I'll get back up stronger. A winner says, if I don't know how, I'll learn. A winner says, I will not leave this earth without giving everything I've got. You know, command, stop rehearsing defeat in your mind. Start rehearsing victory. You know, listen to me. If your thinking is small, your life will be small. If your thinking is limited, your results will be limited. But if you expand your vision, if you believe bigger, if you think like a winner, your actions will rise to the level of your belief. You know, think about a GPS. It doesn't matter where you are. What matters is what destination you type in. That's mindset. If you type in small goals, small dreams, you'll arrive at a small life. But if you type in greatness, if you type in legacy, if you type in excellence, your mind will reroute every obstacle until you arrive there. The command, stop programming your mind with doubt. Start programming it with destiny. You know, a winner's mindset is not positive thinking. It's powerful thinking. It's the refusal to let negativity, fear, or doubt take root. It's the decision to see possibilities when everyone else settles for problems. One-liner, average people see walls. Winners see doors hidden in the walls. Winners think differently about time. They don't waste it. They don't take it for granted. They know every second matters, so they maximize it. Winners think differently about failure. They know failure isn't fatal, it's feedback. They think differently about sacrifice. They know what they give up today will pay them back tenfold tomorrow. You know? And here's the truth. You don't get to choose if life will be hard. It will. But you do get to choose how you think about it. Winners think hard means I'm getting stronger. Quitters think hard means I should stop. That's the separation. Command, change your thoughts. Change your life. Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is the proof that you're in the game. Pressure means you're carrying something heavy enough to matter. Winners don't run from pressure. They run to it. They understand that diamonds are made under pressure. Muscles are built under pressure. Legacies are formed under pressure. Most people fold when the weight gets heavy. They start complaining. They start looking for shortcuts. They start begging for an easier route. But winners recognize pressure as privilege. Winners know the very thing that breaks others will build them. Yo, Command, stop wishing it was easier. Start getting stronger. Pressure is the separating factor. Anybody can show up when it's comfortable, when the spotlight is on, when the task is light. But only winners keep grinding when the deadlines suffocate, when the criticism piles up, when the stakes get high and the fear kicks in. Pressure reveals who you really are. It exposes your preparation, your character, your discipline. One-liner, pressure doesn't break winners. It breaks excuses. Think about the greatest athletes, the most successful leaders, the icons you admire. They weren't celebrated because they performed when it was easy. They're legends because they delivered when the game was on the line, when the odds were stacked, when everything could have fallen apart. That's pressure, and they embraced it. The problem with most people is they pray for comfort instead of capacity. They ask for less weight instead of stronger shoulders. Winners flip that script. Winners ask for growth. Winners ask for strength. Winners ask for resilience. They say, don't take the load away. Train me to carry it. Command, redefine, pressure as preparation. You've got to stop looking at challenges as curses. They are training grounds. Every deadline that scares you, every responsibility that overwhelms you, every obstacle that pushes you to your limits, it's sharpening you. It's building endurance. It's preparing you for the next level. Winners don't complain about the pressure. They calculate it. They measure it. They adapt to it. And then they come out sharper. Pressure teaches you how to focus. It forces you to prioritize. It demands that you cut out distractions. Without pressure, you drift. With pressure, you get precise. One-liner, pressure doesn't drown winners. It teaches them how to breathe underwater. Winners have a mindset that says, if I can handle this, I can handle anything. That's why they don't shy away from tough assignments, big goals, impossible dreams. They lean into them because every time they carry more than they thought they could, they grow. And here's the truth. You're not losing because life is too heavy. You're losing because you keep running from the weight. Winners win because they stayed under it long enough to adapt, to grow, to rise. Command. Stop avoiding the fire. Step into it and let it refine you. Pressure is not permanent pain. It's temporary training. And when you embrace it, you elevate. Winners understand this. The pressure that feels unbearable today becomes the strength that makes them unstoppable tomorrow. Winners refuse excuses. Excuses are the language of the weak. Excuses are the shelter of the uncommitted. Winners don't speak that language. Winners don't negotiate with excuses. They don't justify failure. They don't point fingers. They own everything. The wins, the losses, the setbacks, the progress. Most people build careers out of explaining why they didn't get it done. They've got a list ready. No time, no money, no support, no opportunity, no resources. But winners take the same circumstances and say, I will find a way. They don't deny reality, but they refuse to let it dictate their destiny. Command, kill the excuses, or the excuses will kill your dream. Excuses give you permission to stay the same. They make you comfortable with mediocrity. They trick you into thinking you've got a valid reason for not grinding, for not sacrificing, for not pushing. But winners know the truth. Excuses might protect your ego for the moment, but they destroy your future forever. A one-liner, every excuse is a deposit into a life you don't want. Look back at your life. Count how many times an excuse robbed you of an opportunity. Count how many times you let your feelings tell you not today. Count how many times you convinced yourself, I'll start tomorrow. Winners don't let tomorrow steal from today. They don't postpone their destiny. They don't sit around waiting for the perfect moment. They make the moment perfect by acting now. Excuses are dangerous because they're dressed in truth. I'm tired. That's real. I don't have the money. That's real. I don't have the connections. That's real. But winners take reality and turn it into resourcefulness. Winners say, I might be tired, but I'll work tired. Winners say, I don't have the money, but I'll find a way to create it. Winners say, I don't have the connections, but I'll grind until people can't ignore me. You command, stop accepting excuses as facts. Start treating them as challenges. Winners know this. Excuses spread like poison. The more you use them, the weaker you get. The more you lean on them, the less discipline you develop. But when you cut them off, when you say, no more blaming, no more waiting, no more hiding, you unlock a level of energy and drive you didn't even know you had. One-liner excuses keep you average. Ownership makes you unstoppable. You know, the reason winners rise is because they accept responsibility others avoid. They don't waste time complaining about what they can't control. They double down on what they can. That's why they move faster, grow stronger, and break through barriers. You've got to understand, excuses are a decision. Every time you make one, you decide to lose. Every time you cancel a workout, every time you procrastinate on that project, every time you settle for less, you're choosing defeat. Winners choose differently. They choose ownership. They choose discipline. They choose action. Command. Reject the excuse. Respect the grind. If you want to step into the mindset of a winner, you've got to be allergic to excuses. You've got to treat them like poison gas. If it's in the room, you can't breathe. Winners create an environment where excuses cannot live. And that's why their dreams do. Winners are obsessed with growth. Winners don't settle. Winners don't get comfortable. Winners are allergic to stagnation. They're not content with good enough because they know good enough kills greatness. Growth is their oxygen. They wake up hungry to improve, and they go to bed planning how to rise again tomorrow. Most people reach a certain level and park there. They get a little success, a little recognition, a little comfort, and they stop pushing. They stop learning, stop stretching, stop chasing excellence. But winners know the journey never ends. They're relentless about getting better, sharper, stronger, wiser. Command, never let comfort steal your hunger. You know, growth is not optional if you want to win. Growth is the requirement. Winners don't avoid challenges. They seek them because they know growth hides in the uncomfortable places. They read when others watch TV. They train when others sleep. They study their craft when others waste hours scrolling. They're obsessed with getting 5 and jury better every single day. One-liner. Winners don't chase perfection. They chase progress relentlessly. You know, here's the reality. If you're not growing, you're dying. There's no neutral. The world is moving. Industries are shifting. People are evolving. And if you're standing still, you're already behind. Winners know this. That's why they never stop evolving. They don't cling to the old version of themselves. They reinvent. They adapt. They transform. Growth is not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not always celebrated. Growth is lonely nights of studying, early mornings of discipline, painful reps in the gym, awkward attempts at new skills, humbling failures that force you to stretch. But winners crave that process. They know growth hurts, but stagnation kills. Command, trade your comfort zone for your growth zone. Winners invest in growth like it's their lifeline. They spend money on books, courses, coaches, mentors, while the average person wastes money on entertainment. They give time to habits that sharpen them, while the average person gives time to distractions that weaken them. They treat their body, their mind, their spirit like assets that must appreciate daily. One-liner, winners understand the cost of growth is high, but the cost of staying the same is death. The obsession with growth makes winners dangerous, because while everyone else is satisfied, they're still hungry. While everyone else is plateauing, they're rising. While everyone else is slowing down, they're speeding up. That's why winners separate. That's why they dominate. Winners control their environment. Winners don't just grind harder. They guard smarter. They understand that their environment is shaping them every single day. The people you hang around, the conversations you allow, the habits you tolerate, the atmosphere you live in, it's either fueling your fire or killing it. Winners take control of it. Most people underestimate the power of environment. They think success is just about personal willpower. But your willpower won't survive in a toxic environment. You can't think like a giant if you're surrounded by small minds. You can't dream big if everyone around you talks small. You can't grind hard if your environment makes laziness look normal. In a command, if it doesn't push you forward, cut it off. Winner! Winners curate their circle. They don't allow constant negativity, excuses, or gossip in their space. They don't hang around people who drain their energy. They find people who challenge them, sharpen them, and call them higher. They build atmospheres that demand growth. One-liner, your environment will either be your cage or your launch pad. Think about it. You plant a seed in bad soil. It doesn't matter how much potential that seed has, it won't grow. That's how most people live. They've got potential, but they planted themselves in the wrong soil. Winners replant themselves. They choose soil that feeds them, challenges them, and allows them to rise. And don't get it twisted. Controlling your environment isn't just about people. It's about habits, routines, and what you consume daily. Winners guard their inputs. They protect their focus. They limit the noise. They don't waste their mind on gossip, drama, and distractions. They feed it with books, training, and powerful content. Command. Audit your environment and upgrade it. Winners take full ownership of their space. If the room is messy, they clean it. If the schedule is chaotic, they organize it. If the circle is toxic, they change it. They don't make excuses. They make adjustments. One-liner. Average people adapt to their environment. Winners make their environment adapt to them. Most people stay trapped because they're afraid to walk away from environments they've outgrown. They don't want to let go of old friends, old habits, old routines. But winners know if it costs their growth, it costs too much. They cut ties, they change routines, they leave environments that no longer align with their vision. They go, if you want to win, you've got to stop trying to thrive in a place that's killing you. You've got to be bold enough to step into new soil, new energy, new environments that demand a higher version of you. Command, stop surviving in toxic spaces. Start thriving in intentional spaces. Winners don't just wait for the right environment. They create it. They build atmospheres where focus is normal, growth is required, and excellence is the standard. That's why they rise when others stay stuck. Winners play the long game. Winners don't just chase moments. They build legacies. They don't think about today only. They think about tomorrow, the next year, the next decade. They know greatness is not a sprint. It's a marathon. They're not in it for the quick applause. They're in it for the lasting impact. Most people quit because they confuse speed with success. They want overnight results. They want instant gratification. They want to plant seeds today and harvest tomorrow. But winners understand the principle. You reap in a different season than you sow. You don't plant corn today and eat it tonight. Growth takes time. Success takes consistency. Legacy takes years. You come in. Stop chasing quick wins. Start building a long-term vision. Winners delay gratification. They pass on temporary pleasure for permanent progress. While most people waste their money on short-term fun, winners invest in skills, in assets, in opportunities that compound over time. Most people waste time scrolling. Winners use that time to sharpen their craft. So in 5 years, they're unrecognizable. Cute. One-liner. Average people play for now. Winners play for forever. The long game demands patience. And patience is not waiting. It's working while you wait. It's grinding day after day, even when the results aren't visible yet. It's trusting the process enough to keep planting seeds, even when the soil looks dry. You know, winners don't panic when progress feels slow. They know real growth is often invisible before it's undeniable. Just like roots grow underground before a tree ever breaks the surface. Winners know the work you don't see today is building the results everyone will see tomorrow. You know, come in. Trust the grind. Respect the process. Most people fail because they quit in the middle. They start strong, but when the results don't show quickly enough, they walk away. Winners separate themselves because they stay consistent when it feels like nothing is happening. They outlast the competition. They out-discipline the impatient. They out-focus the distracted. That's how they win, not just once, but again and again. One-liner. The long game doesn't reward the fastest. It rewards the most faithful. You know, winners understand this. If it comes quick, it usually doesn't last. They don't want fragile success. They want durable success. They want to build something that can't be shaken. Something that survives storms. Something that leaves a mark long after they're gone. You know, that's why they take the time to do it right. That's why they master the fundamentals. That's why they sacrifice today for a payoff tomorrow. Because they know the grind will compound, the discipline will multiply, and the vision will eventually manifest. You know, command, build for the future, not for the moment. The long game is the game of legacy. It's about what people will say about you when you're gone. It's about the seeds you plant now that your children, your family, your community, your industry will benefit from later. That's the difference between average and great. Winners master their emotions. You know, winners feel everything you feel. They feel fear. They feel doubt. They feel anger. They feel tired. But here's the difference. They don't let those emotions dictate their actions. They run their emotions. Their emotions don't run them. Most people live like slaves to their feelings. If they feel motivated, they work. If they don't, they quit. If they feel confident, they take action. If they don't, they freeze. Their whole life is up and down because they let emotions drive the car. Winners put emotions in the passenger seat. They let discipline drive. Command. Stop letting feelings make your decisions. Let your purpose make them. Your emotions are signals, not steering wheels. They can inform you, but they cannot control you. Fear can warn you, but it cannot stop you. Tiredness can remind you to rest, but it cannot be your excuse to quit. Frustration can teach you patience, but it cannot be your reason to walk away. Winners translate emotions into lessons, not limitations. One-liner. Winners don't ignore emotions. They master them. And think about the soldier in the middle of battle. Do you think he feels fear? Of course. But he doesn't let fear freeze him. He channels it into focus. Think about the athlete in the championship. Do you think she feels pressure? Absolutely. But she doesn't collapse. She turns pressure into performance. That's what winners do. They channel emotions into fuel, not chains. Command. Don't fight your emotions. Train them. Winners discipline their emotions through habits. They control their mornings before the day controls them. They practice gratitude to fight negativity. They set routines to protect their focus. They use structure to keep their emotions in check. That's why when storms hit, they don't collapse. Their emotions are trained to stay in line with their vision. Most people lose because they quit when they don't feel like it. Winners win because they act regardless of feeling. They know that feelings follow actions, not the other way around. You move first, and the emotion catches up. That's why they grind, even when they're tired. That's why they study, even when they're bored. That's why they push, even when they're afraid. One-liner, your feelings are not facts. They're suggestions. Winners choose which ones to obey. Winners also know emotions are contagious. That's why they protect their energy. They don't let negative people dump their chaos on them. They don't let the emotions of others infect their mindset. They set boundaries, they control their circle, and they refuse to let someone else's storm ruin their focus. Command, guard your energy like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Mastering emotions doesn't mean you don't feel them. It means you feel them, but you move anyway. You acknowledge them, but you refuse to be controlled by them. Winners know emotions make great servants, but terrible masters. That's why they stay consistent while everyone else is inconsistent. And if you want the mindset of a winner, you got to train yourself to lead your emotions and follow them. That's how you stay steady in chaos, strong in storms, and unshakable when others crumble. Winners never settle. Winners are allergic to average. They refuse to accept mediocrity. They don't care what the standard is around them. They set their own standard, and it's always higher. Settling is not in their vocabulary. If they reach a goal, they raise it. If they climb a mountain, they look for the next peak. Most people get a taste of success and then they stop. They get comfortable, satisfied with a little progress, a little recognition, a little comfort. They settle for good enough. But winners see good enough as the enemy. They know that settling destroys potential, and potential wasted is a life wasted. Command, stop lowering your standards. Start demanding more from yourself. Settling feels safe, but it's deadly. It lulls you into complacency. It convinces you that you've done enough, when in reality, you've just scratched the surface of what you're capable of. Winners understand that settling is slow death. It kills your hunger. It kills your fire. It kills your future. One-liner, set healing is the silent assassin of greatness. Winners chase mastery, not mediocrity. They don't want to be good. They want to be great. They don't want to be remembered for what they almost did. They want to be remembered for what they finished, what they built, what they conquered. Look at history. The names you remember, athletes, leaders, innovators, they never settled. They broke records, then broke their own. They set standards, then raised them higher. They live with the mindset that enough is never enough when excellence is possible. Command. Refuse to stop at average. Push until excellence is your baseline. Settling shows up in little decisions, hitting snooze instead of getting up, giving, piping your pass instead of eat-bat, stopping when you're tired instead of when you're done. Winners notice those little compromises and cut them out. They know the small habits create the big results, so they refuse to let mediocrity sneak into their daily choices. One-liner, the gap between good and great is filled with choices you don't feel like making. Winners live in pursuit. They live in expansion. They live with a mindset that says, there's more in me, and I won't stop until I bring it out. That's why they inspire others, because their life becomes proof of what's possible when you refuse to settle. Command, raise your bar and then outgrow it. If you want the mindset of a winner, you have to make a decision today. No more settling. No more excuses. No more comfort zones. Demand more from yourself than anyone else ever could. That's how you separate. That's how you rise. That's how you live a life worth remembering. Stop just listening and start moving. Don't let this speech be background noise. Don't let it be motivation for the moment. Let it be the spark for your transformation. Winners don't wait, they act. Winners don't talk, they execute. Winners don't plan forever, they move now. Right? So here's what you do. Write your goals down today. Cut off every excuse. Cut out every distraction and commit to the grind. Subscribe to this channel. Lock in with this community and feed your mind daily with fuel that keeps you sharp. Share this with somebody who needs a wake-up call, and then go prove through your actions, through your discipline, through your results, that you got the mindset of a winner. Command, don't just dream about it. Don't just hope for it. Work for it. Don't just say you're a winner. Live like one.